All right, let's talk about Family Guy Season 20, Episode 8, because holy hell, did this one feel like it was assembled from spare parts found in a dusty attic. Sometimes I think the writers just throw a dart at a board with random plot ideas, and whatever it lands on, they go with. And this week, that dart landed on a bizarre blend of office shenanigans, Stewie in detention, and some truly questionable musical numbers. Honestly, it felt like they were trying to hit every single possible Family Guy trope in one go. And sometimes, less is more, people. We open with the classic Family Guy theme song, which, let's be real, is a bop. It's catchy, it's got that signature irreverence, and it sets the stage for, well, for whatever the heck is about to happen. And this episode, it sets the stage for Peter deciding that his true calling in life is office birthday planning. Yes, you heard that right. Not managing the brewery, not making beer, but orchestrating the perfect birthday celebration for Brenda from accounting. And for a guy who usually can't string two coherent thoughts together, Peter really commits. He takes this birthday gig more seriously than he takes his own children. It's hilarious and also deeply pathetic, which is kind of their brand, isn't it? Meanwhile, Stewie, bless his tiny evil heart, is off to detention. And not just any detention. Oh no, this is elementary school detention for a preschooler. The sheer existential dread on Stewie's face as he contemplates the world of big kids with their teeth and their lack of pacifiers is comedy gold. It's the kind of fear that only a toddler who's never faced real adversity could have. And the way he freaks out about the elementary school is just perfect. It's like he's being sent to Alcatraz. The whole setup feels like a fever dream. And if you think that's wild, just wait until we get to the part where Peter tries to defend his birthday obsession. He compares himself to JK Rowling and then immediately goes off the rails with some incredibly awkward, transphobic adjacent comments about wizard stories. It's a classic Family Guy move. Start with a relatable premise, then pivot to something deeply uncomfortable and confusing. It's like they have a department dedicated to just that. And the episode just keeps piling on the weirdness. We get a bizarre, heavily auto-tuned musical number that feels like it was beamed in from a forgotten 80s infomercial. It's supposed to be about June birthdays, but it just devolves into a nonsensical string of rhymes and random images. It's bafflingly bad, but also, in its own special way, kind of iconic. It's the kind of thing you watch and think, what in God's name did I just witness? And just when you think it can't get any stranger, they introduce this new manager, Preston Lloyd, who is apparently allergic to fun and has a six-pack that looks like it was photoshopped onto his torso. He's the kind of guy who thinks a brewery is a place for disciplined, productive employees, and that beer is not about getting drunk. Right, because everyone drinks beer at a brewery for the subtle notes of malt and the intellectual stimulation. This dude is clearly a nightmare and is destined to clash with Peter. It's the quintessential Family Guy setup. A normalish purpose meets pure, unadulterated absurdity. And speaking of absurdity, Stewie's detention experience is wild. He encounters this kid named Thomas the Shank Engine, who sounds like he escaped from a Dickens novel and is clearly a menace. The idea of Stewie, the sophisticated megalomaniac, being tormented by a school bully who steals his nose is just peak Family Guy. It's so over the top, you have to laugh. And the payoff, when Stewie is released from detention and confronts Brian, claiming he aged 4 years and that they got his nose, is just chef's kiss. It's pure, unhinged Stewie. This episode has so many moments that make you scratch your head and ask, why? And that's why we're here. We're going to dive deep into all the weirdness, the jokes that landed, and the ones that crashed and burned. And trust me, there were plenty of both. So buckle up, because this is going to be a ride. And if you're not already subscribed, you're missing out on all the fun. Seriously, hit that button. You know you want to. It's like ignoring a free donut, just wrong. Anyway, this episode, it's a real mixed bag. It's got classic Family Guy energy in spades, but it also feels a bit aimless, like it's trying too hard to be everything to everyone. It's a testament to their ability to shock and amuse, but also a reminder that sometimes they just miss the mark. But hey, that's why we love to dissect it, right? We're going to pick apart the good, the bad, and the downright bizarre. So stick around. There's a lot to unpack here. And frankly, I'm still trying to figure out what JK Rowling has to do with office birthdays. It's a mystery for the ages, folks. A genuine, perplexing mystery. This episode, on the surface, is a two-pronged attack of classic Family Guy hijinks. On one hand, you have Peter embracing his inner office party planner, taking over birthday celebrations at the brewery with an almost fanatical devotion. It's the kind of ridiculous obsession that only Peter Griffin can muster, transforming a simple HR task into a full-blown personal crusade. He genuinely believes he's a master of morale, a birthday maestro, and his pronouncements are delivered with the gravitas of a world leader announcing a peace treaty. This storyline runs parallel to Stewie's unexpected journey into the dreaded world of elementary school detention. It's a classic fish-out-of-water scenario, but with Stewie's usual sinister flair as he navigates the brutal hierarchy of older children. The contrast between Peter's oblivious, albeit well-intentioned chaos at the brewery and Stewie's genuinely terrifying, albeit exaggerated, experience at school is a hallmark of Family Guy's structure. They often run two seemingly disparate plots that occasionally, and sometimes not so occasionally, collide in hilariously unexpected ways. But beneath the surface of birthday cakes and playground bullies, this episode is really digging into the nature of purpose and fulfillment, or rather, the lack thereof. Peter's obsession with birthdays is a desperate attempt to find something he's good at, something that gives him value in the eyes of others, even if it's just appreciating a poorly executed joke about Disneyland. He's clinging to this role because it's the only thing that makes him feel competent, the only thing he looks forward to at work. It's a sad commentary on his adult life, where his actual job seems to be an afterthought. Meanwhile, Stewie's detention ordeal, beyond its comedic value, explores the harsh realities of social structures and power dynamics, even for a genius toddler. He's confronted with a world far less sophisticated than his own, a world where physical intimidation and a stolen nose are the currency of the realm. It's a microcosm of the adult world, and Stewie's terror is, in its own way, a reflection of any adult who's ever felt out of their depth or threatened by forces they don't understand. Where does this episode sit in the grand tapestry of Family Guy? It feels like a mid-season filler episode, a solid but not spectacular entry that hits many of the show's familiar beats without necessarily breaking new ground. It doesn't redefine the characters or push the narrative forward in any significant way, but it delivers the expected laughs and moments of bizarre commentary. The writing quality is a bit of a roller coaster. The Peter storyline, while predictable, has its moments of genuine humor thanks to Peter's unwavering commitment to absurdity. The Stewie plot, however, feels a little more forced, relying on shock value and Stewie's typical outlandish reactions to carry it. The jokes are a mixed bag. Some land with the force of a sledgehammer, while others fall flatter than a pancake after a steamroller convention. The pacing also feels a little off. The musical number, while memorable for its sheer awfulness, grinds the episode to a halt. And the sudden appearance of Preston Lloyd, the new manager, feels abrupt and serves primarily as a plot device to create conflict for Peter. Visually, it's standard Family Guy fare. Nothing particularly cinematic or noteworthy, but the animation is consistent. The direction is functional, guiding the audience through the various comedic scenarios without much flair. Ultimately, my verdict on this episode is that it's a decent but ultimately forgettable entry. It provides the expected level of Family Guy humor and chaos, but it doesn't leave a lasting impression. It's an episode you'll probably forget about a week after watching it, but you might chuckle a few times while it's on. It's a 6.8 out of 10. It earns points for Peter's unwavering dedication to birthdays and Stewie's dramatic pronouncements, but loses points for the meandering plot and some jokes that felt a little too familiar. It's an episode that caters to the longtime fans who appreciate the show's unique brand of insanity, but it's unlikely to win over any new viewers. What would have pushed the score higher? A more cohesive narrative that better integrated the Peter and Stewie plots, and maybe a musical number that was actually good, or at least intentionally bad in a funnier way. But alas, we got what we got. And now, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of how this whole thing went down. Let's start by dissecting the absolute chaos that is Peter's newfound passion for office birthdays. So this brewery manager, who apparently hasn't seen a single episode of The Office, decides birthdays are the key to employee morale. And Peter, who usually struggles to remember his own kids' names, suddenly finds his calling. He's got jokes ready, he's got songs planned, he's even got a JK Rowling comparison that goes so off the rails it makes you question the writer's life choices. This whole bit is a masterclass in Peter Griffin's brand of oblivious delusion. He genuinely believes he's some kind of morale guru, transforming a mundane HR task into a theatrical production. When Lois points out he's neglecting his actual job, his defense is, "It's the one thing I look forward to at work. It's the one thing I'm good at." That line, man, it's a gut punch wrapped in a joke. It highlights the pathetic reality of his existence. His job is probably miserable, and this is his only escape. The scene where he unveils his birthday plans, complete with the singing of "June is Busting Out All Over," featuring Leslie Uggams herself, is hilariously surreal. It's Family Guy at its most bizarre, throwing in a respected musical guest for a nonsensical, auto-tuned anthem about office workers. Who even requests that? And the punchline, of course, is that it's November, not June. The utter disregard for reality, the sheer commitment to the bit, is what makes these moments work, even when they're objectively terrible. This storyline is peak Peter, a simple premise blown up into an epic, misguided quest. It's funny because it's so relatable in its portrayal of someone finding a niche, even if that niche is utterly ridiculous. Now, let's pivot to the equally, if not more chaotic world of Stewie in Detention. The initial shock of being sent to elementary school detention as a preschooler is depicted with the kind of dramatic music usually reserved for horror movie jump scares. Stewie's terrified pronouncements about the big kids and their teeth are priceless. He's the most intelligent being in the universe, and he's scared of third graders. It's a funny reversal of expectations. When he encounters Doug, the kid he previously pranked with the nothing on your shirt gag, the tension is palpable. Doug, clearly traumatized, is then physically assaulted by Stewie, who confesses, "Yes, I hit him, and it was glorious." This is Stewie's dark side fully unleashed, but juxtaposed with his subsequent fear of punishment is brilliant. He revels in the cruelty, then crumbles under the threat of detention. The show then makes a surprising, almost meta-commentary by having Stewie's fear of detention be so profound that he's actually terrified of the idea of loud noises, even spoken ones, which then leads to a jump scare from a TV announcer. It's a cleverly meta joke about sitcom tropes and audience expectations. The elementary school itself is portrayed as this terrifying wasteland of overgrown children, complete with a fourth grader who looks like a serial killer and inexplicably speaks in a Mickey Mouse voice, spouting profound truths. This whole segment is a caricature of childhood fears and the arbitrary nature of punishment. It's funny because it exaggerates these common childhood anxieties to a ridiculous extreme, making Stewie's fear feel both genuine and completely overblown. The introduction of the new brewery manager, Preston Lloyd, is another standout moment, if only for its sheer, unadulterated awfulness. This guy, who is apparently a teetotaler with a six-pack that looks painted on, is the antithesis of everything a brewery should be about. He's all about discipline and productivity, and his pronouncement that he's canceling office birthdays is met with the kind of horror usually reserved for news of a zombie apocalypse. Peter's plea to keep birthdays is framed as a fight for the soul of the brewery, for the very concept of fun. Lloyd's response, "A brewery is not about getting drunk. It's a business. I need disciplined, productive employees," is so hilariously out of touch it circles back to being funny. Peter's meek admission, "Oh, heavens no," to being disciplined is perfectly in character. The scene where the employees, led by Peter, essentially rebel by holding a secret disco-themed birthday party in an unused meeting room is a classic Family Guy move. It's the little guy against the oppressive authority, a theme the show often revisits with varying degrees of success. The Beatles performing a jazzy rendition of Happy Birthday is another one of those moments where you just have to surrender to the absurdity. It's completely unexpected and, in its own way, kind of charming. It's these moments of pure, unadulterated weirdness that define the show, and this episode delivers them in spades. Stewie's descent into the dark underbelly of elementary school detention continues, and it's truly something to behold. He meets a kid named Thomas the Shank Engine, who sounds like a character from a horror novel designed for toddlers. The dialogue here is gold. "Got jacked," Stewie says, referring to his detention experience. Brian's response, "You look exactly the same," and Stewie's retort, "And yet I got jacked," perfectly capture the trauma of the experience from Stewie's perspective. The imagery Stewie paints of his time in detention is vivid and disturbing, an older boy stealing his nose and never giving it back. This is the kind of surreal horror that Stewie often experiences, amplified by the mundane setting of a school. His plea to Brian, "They've got my nose, Brian," is delivered with such genuine terror that it's both funny and a little unsettling. It's a testament to the writer's ability to craft these extreme scenarios and make them feel, in the moment, utterly believable within the show's universe. The episode then brings it all together with Peter's firing. The new manager, Preston Lloyd, discovers the secret birthday party, and Peter, as usual, takes the blame for the nudity that apparently occurred. His dismissal is met with a hilariously detached farewell to the security guards, whom he never bothered to learn the names of. The subsequent scene where Lois laments their financial situation and Peter asks if Venmo just believes you have the money is a sharp, timely jab at the realities of modern financial struggles, even for cartoon characters. It's a brief but effective moment of grounded absurdity before the episode launches into its final, bizarre act. And then there's the grand finale, where Peter is somehow supposed to become a Radio City Rockette. This is the kind of absurd career pivot that only Family Guy can pull off. The image of him in two big shoes, attempting to dance, is pure visual comedy. The reason given? He butters his feet. It's the kind of nonsensical explanation that makes the show so unique. Meanwhile, Stewie's breakfast conversation with Chris is another moment that highlights the show's darker humor. Stewie's immediate assumption about a new slab of beef delivered and his sarcastic remark about Chris not having a name until he gives it one is classic Stewie. His interactions with Chris are always a mix of disdain and grudging tolerance. The threat of violence, the mention of swastikas, it's all played for laughs, showcasing Stewie's complete lack of empathy and his twisted worldview. The episode concludes with Stewie's utter confusion and distress as he's subjected to something he clearly doesn't understand or enjoy. The scene where he's crying and saying, "I don't like it, I don't understand what's happening," as upbeat electronic music plays, is a jarring and strangely poignant moment. It's a glimpse of vulnerability beneath the evil genius persona, even if it is presented in a darkly comedic way. The episode leaves us with a sense of utter bewilderment, a hallmark of a truly successful, or at least memorable, Family Guy episode. Let's check in on the characters and see how they fared in this particular brand of animated mayhem. Peter, bless his idiotic heart, was really the engine of the A-plot here. His relentless pursuit of birthday perfection was both cringeworthy and undeniably funny. He's at his best when he's completely out of his depth but utterly convinced of his own genius, and this episode certainly delivered on that. His defense of birthdays as essential to employee morale, even when faced with a sober, productivity-obsessed manager, showcased his commitment to the absurd. It's a role he plays with such conviction, it's hard not to appreciate it, even when he's being completely foolish. His firing, while predictable, felt earned, not because he was bad at his job, but because he was so enthusiastically bad at anything other than birthday planning. It's a testament to his character that even when he loses his job, he's still thinking about something ridiculous, like becoming a Rockette. Lois, as usual, was the voice of reason, the exasperated wife trying to keep the Griffin household from completely imploding. She's the straight man to Peter's clown, and while she doesn't get a ton of meaty storylines here, her reactions to Peter's lunacy are crucial. She's the audience surrogate, sighing at his antics and worrying about the bills. Her brief conversation with Peter about Venmo, where she has to explain that it's not a magical money-generating app, was a small but effective moment showing her trying to ground him in reality. She's the anchor, and without her, Peter's chaos would likely be even more unmanageable. Chris, well, Chris is Chris. He's present, he's saying his lines, and he's not actively detrimental to the plot, which is about as high praise as you can give him in most episodes. His joke about Disneyland, while a bit convoluted, gets brought back into the main storyline, which shows some narrative cohesion. He's part of the office birthday setup and part of the general family dynamic, but he's not exactly driving any of the major plot points. His role here is more about existing in the world that Peter is trying to manipulate. Meg, sadly, gets even less to do than Chris, which is saying something. She's mentioned in passing regarding the financial woes after Peter's firing, but she's not actively involved in any of the main storylines. It feels like a missed opportunity to do anything with Meg. Even a throwaway gag where she tries to organize her own birthday party and it's a disaster would have been more engaging than her virtual absence. It's a shame because there's always potential for Meg to be the subject of some particularly brutal but funny misfortune. Stewie, on the other hand, is front and center in a significant subplot. This episode really leans into his childlike terror of the unknown, juxtaposed with his usual evil genius persona. His fear of elementary school detention, his encounter with Thomas the Shank Engine, and the whole no-stealing ordeal were classic Stewie. He's at his best when he's both terrifyingly intelligent and incredibly vulnerable, and this episode managed to hit both notes. His post-detention interactions with Brian show a Stewie who has genuinely been scarred, albeit in his own exaggerated way, and that's a compelling character trait to explore. It makes him more than just a one-note villain. Brian, as usual, plays the role of the slightly more sensible friend, the observer who occasionally gets dragged into the madness. He's the one Stewie confides in, and his reaction to Stewie's trauma, while trying to remain detached, is typical Brian. He's the intellectual foil, but also the guy who's seen it all before. He's not given a huge amount to do here. His main function is to listen to Stewie and react, but his presence provides a grounding element to Stewie's wilder adventures. He's the voice of mild concern in a sea of absolute lunacy. New character Preston Lloyd, the manager, is exactly what you'd expect, a humorless corporate drone brought in to be the antagonist. He serves his purpose as the catalyst for Peter's downfall and the force of order against the chaos of office birthdays. He's not particularly complex, but he's effective in his role as the bad guy who represents everything Peter dislikes about the corporate world. He's the symbol of oppression that the brewery employees, and especially Peter, must overcome, or in this case, succumb to. Hidden gems and Easter eggs are always a fun part of Family Guy, and this episode, while not overflowing with them, has a few worth digging into. The opening theme song itself is a treasure trove of subtle jokes and visual gags that often get overlooked because we're all just waiting for the episode to start. For instance, in the sequence where Brian and Stewie are walking, pay close attention to the background details. There are usually quick blink-and-you'll-miss-it jokes happening. The JK Rowling comparison Peter makes is a pretty obvious callback to the real-world controversy surrounding her statements, and the show trying to awkwardly navigate that by referencing problematic authors is a bold, if clumsy, move. It's a reference that's so specific and slightly uncomfortable, it screams Family Guy. Then there's the musical number June is Busting Out All Over. While the song itself is an auditory assault, its inclusion of Leslie Uggams, a legitimate and respected Broadway and television star, is a kind of meta-joke. It's like they're saying, we can get anyone to sing our ridiculous songs, even someone incredibly talented. It's a testament to the show's bizarre cultural cachet. The mention of trans women aren't really women is another one of those jarring, did they really just say that moments that are designed to provoke and shock, often without much deeper meaning beyond that shock value. It's a commentary on culture wars, delivered with all the subtlety of a brick to the face. Finally, the appearance of Thomas the Shank Engine in Stewie's Detention storyline is a clear nod to characters like Thomas the Tank Engine, but twisted into something sinister. It's a childish reference made terrifying, which is Stewie's whole brand, but this specific twist is a clever way to inject that dark humor into the school setting. These little touches, the layered references, and the unexpected guest stars in absurd situations are what give Family Guy its longevity, even when the main plot feels a bit shaky. They keep you watching, looking for the next little wink and nudge. Okay, let's talk about what could have been different, because honestly, this episode had potential but felt like it was trying to juggle too many balls and dropped most of them. First off, the integration of Peter's birthday obsession and Stewie's detention. Right now, they feel like two completely separate episodes stitched together with a few brief, awkward crossovers. What if instead, Peter's office birthday planning somehow leads to Stewie needing to be punished? Maybe Peter's over-the-top birthday celebration causes a chaotic incident at the brewery that results in a mandatory company-wide detention for all employees' children, forcing Stewie into that hellscape. That would have tied the plots together more organically and given Peter a direct consequence for his actions, rather than him just being fired for nudity he probably didn't even cause. The jokes could then play off the shared experience, with Peter trying to plan detention and Stewie complaining about the lack of fun at his party. Secondly, the character of Preston Lloyd, the new manager. He's just blandly evil. He's the typical humorless corporate guy. What if he was someone unexpected? What if he was a former employee who was fired for being too fun, and now he's back to exact revenge by eradicating all joy? Or even better, what if he was actually Peter's long-lost, hyper-competent half-brother who resents Peter for taking the easy road? This would have given Peter a personal stake in the conflict beyond just losing his birthday privileges. It would have added a layer of sibling rivalry to the story, a classic Family Guy trope they could have leaned into more. Instead, we got another generic bad boss. And finally, the musical number. June is Busting Out All Over is a choice. It's so bizarrely out of place and poorly executed with the autotune that it's almost painful. What if instead of a random musical number, they had a more character-driven song that actually commented on the situation? Perhaps a bluesy lament from Peter about the loss of his birthday duties, or a chaotic, over-the-top anthem from Stewie about the horrors of detention. Or, and this is a wild one, what if the song was actually good? Imagine a genuinely catchy tune that encapsulates the episode's aims. I know, it's Family Guy, so aiming for a genuinely good song is probably asking too much, but even a parody that lands perfectly would have been better than what we got. This episode felt like a missed opportunity to truly integrate its comedic elements, rather than just scattering them around. So, let's wrap this up. This episode of Family Guy, Season 20, Episode 8, lands itself a solid 6.8 out of 10. It's not a disaster, but it's far from a triumph. It gets points for Peter's unwavering, if misguided, dedication to office birthdays, which is a classic Griffin brand of absurdity. Stewie's descent into elementary school detention, complete with a stolen nose and a terrifying bully, also delivered some genuine laughs and a surprisingly dark edge. The visual of Peter trying to be a Radio City Rockette is also a moment of pure, unadulterated Family Guy silliness that's hard to forget. However, it loses points for its disjointed narrative, feeling more like two separate episodes awkwardly jammed together. The musical number was an auditory offense, and the character of Preston Lloyd was a disappointingly generic antagonist. The writing felt a bit like they were just checking boxes on a Family Guy bingo card. Peter's obsession, Stewie's extreme reaction to something mundane, a bizarre musical number, and a poorly conceived antagonist. This episode is really for the diehard fans, the ones who will watch anything this show throws at them, and find something to appreciate in its particular brand of chaos.
Newcomers would probably be utterly bewildered and quite possibly repulsed. What would have pushed this score higher? A tighter script that actually connected the A and B plots in a meaningful way, and a musical number that was either intentionally hilarious or just not there. But alas, we got what we got, and it was a reminder that even when Family Guy misses the mark, it rarely fails to be memorable for its sheer audacity. Much like the opening theme song itself, which always promises a wild ride. Even if this particular episode's ride had a few too many bumpy patches and detours into the utterly inexplicable.